The War of the Lizards was drawing to a close. The nation of Tlaqua had already been met in battle and defeated on multiple fronts. Their lord failed them at the head of 2 massive war hosts, and as town after town fell to the majesty of Khemri, the Lizards chose to pursue peace rather than risk total annihilation. Kroq-Gar of the Last Defenders had finally shown himself, marching grimly at the head of a large defense force near Settra, intent on stopping the Great King's advance or die trying. As the clink and clatter of tools on stone rang out across the whole of the Empire, Settra again demanded that the Lich Priests honor Geheb with a great incantation, and his laborers were infused with the strength of the craftsman god once more. Through their toil, the Golden Age would be delivered unto Nehekhara. Reports from his generals afield had already arrived. Arkhan had succeeded in preventing an invasion of Greater Khemri by an elite force led by Skarbrand, albeit at great cost to his own legions. Settra paused but for a moment at the mention of the death of the eldest of the Wrapup family. A shame that such a faithful servant should fall. He would receive a monument in Khemri to honor his battle against the exiled bloodthirster. After slaughtering the defense force of Quetzalcoatl and forcing a fragile peace agreement between Khemri and Tlaqua, Zahenismet has been ordered to secure the border from threats by the lizards, elves, and demons that infest the southern regions, and his stone legion stands as an immovable wall in the face of any who would dare invade. Following the defeat of Tic-Tac-Toe, the Vulture Lord force-marched his corsairs towards the home port of Zandri, where he longed to take back to the seas after suffering the endless tangle of vines that was the southern jungles. The coastlines of the Black Gulf and Talayan Sea would once again know the terror his tomb ships brought. Once the priests had unearthed the lost tombs of the Second Dynasty, the vengeful Queen Rasut had been awoken and quickly given command of an army. Once the High Priestess of Bast, Nehekharan goddess of cats, gracefulness, and love, Rasut never desired the throne, and only claimed it after her lover, who was at the time King of Khemri and father of her unborn child, was murdered by assassins from the kingdoms of Zandri and Numas. The conspirators then installed the king's weak brother as a puppet. Enraged and in grief beyond reckoning, Rasut begged her patron goddess for help avenging her lost love. So moved was Bast by this display of passion, and no small part insulted that the king was slaughtered on the very steps of her temple. The goddess of love granted Rasut blessings and strength reserved for the most devoted of Ushabti warriors. Blade in each hand and fury in her heart, nothing could stop her as a bloody whirlwind of death descended upon the traitors. When the last had been slaughtered, she then declared none but her son would rule once he had been born. The rest of her short rule was spent defending Khemri from any invader. No matter the odds, Queen Rasut always managed to gain an upper hand and send the would-be conquerors home bloody, if at all. She now rises to serve again, and Bast smiles upon Nehekhara once more. King Wakaff's message was infused with all of the impatience he could muster. Sitting and waiting for the enemy to starve was not how he wished to conduct this battle. Equally angry with the defenders for not being lured into his obvious trap, and with Settra for not allowing him to assault the walls once the trap failed, Waaagh requested yet again that he be allowed to lead an assault on Deff Gorge, as Khorne's followers had dared taint his desert with their foul presence. Settra yet again denied this. They had no need to rush the siege, and Waaagh would learn this wisdom, so the great king hoped. His kingdom was flourishing, but his mind could not linger on other things for long. Kroq-Gar's force was still rapidly approaching. He lifted his blade high, and the legion shuddered forward. Finally, a challenge. Kroq-Gar has finally come out of hiding to face us, and so we shall meet him head on. We've got Settra screaming out in front, but as far as the rest of the formation, we've got our typical swordsmen up front, our damage dealers off to the side, supported by those halberds, and then our great swords directly behind them. We've got our High Priest of Light and the artillery team ready to lend their support. Unfortunately, though, the Casket of Souls is not going to be entirely useful in this battle due to Kroq-Gar fielding mostly single-entity monsters. He has a few regiments like this where we can blast them apart with some artillery fire, but for the most part they're going to be very unused. Kroq-Gar blasting out away with the Hand of the Gods, targeting directly on it, either Settra or I'm going to hit them both. A couple of them crashing into the ground, but hitting their mark, and Settra taking a little chunk of damage there. Unfortunate, but nothing we can't heal up. Some more artillery fire coming on in, but we have no trouble absorbing that and continuing to charge on in. Plan with our chariots is to use all that weight and that melee strength that we know we have to go ahead and overpower their cavalry before turning and working on the other units there. Got screaming in from that Bastillodon. Solar cannons are deadly. And our chariots have engaged on both sides there, so we're going to want to quickly get involved in all of the fighting. The horn ones are going to be a nasty beast to get through. Old ones not as much. So they will have both of the chariots moving in on that side. Over on the other end, the chariots are going to be supported by Herald Nekaph there. They should quickly make work of these horned ones and cold one combo. They also had some chameleon skinks hiding back in the back we were going to have to deal with as well. It's an absolute monster mash. Good things going to normal speed. Settra and the Necrosphinx doing battle with the lizards in the middle there. Necrosphinx isn't enjoying that as much as I would have expected for his bonus versus large. There are a lot of high damage, armor-piercing monsters hitting at the same time, though. Laser beam from the sky coming on down. Luckily missing a majority of our units, but I think our archers are going to get clipped. Several of them feeling Traw's light from multiple angles there. The normal skink cohort were not going to last long against seasoned Tomb Guard. They're going up against two regiments same time. Those maces are meant for capturing for ritualized slaughter. Ours are just meant for killing. Fireball screaming overhead into some of the regiments in the back there, probably trying to smash into our archers. As Tomb Guard fight a bit more of a resilient unit with this Saurus. These are the Blessed variants. They're going to have, I believe it is, fully undepletable vigor. That one has no head now, though. Have is the perfect vigor stat for the Blessed Saurus Warriors, so they never tire. Friendly fire going in. It's only friendly fire if someone reports it. Necrosphinx decided that a gigantic blob of dinos was not a fight it wanted to take, and he was going to lend his support over against the horned ones. The scything blade should cut into the flesh of those lizards, no problem. They had armor. Going to be a quick rout there. On the other end, still focus firing away on our own team. All the friendly fire going down. Chariots are struggling a little bit more over on the other end. The Tomb Prince is not quite as deadly in combat as Nekaph, and so they weren't charging and cutting through this enemy as quickly as you would have expected. That, and they had this goon up here in the top, shooting them with blow darts the entire time. We take some return fire, he's not having that. Just sitting off to the side, being a pain. The exotic animal safari continues, just trying to bag as much of the rare beasties as we can. Haven't even gotten to see Kroq-Gar fighting the entire battle here. Kroq-Gar doing battle from Grimlock. Carnosaur of epic proportions. Still a bunch of stomping going on. Stomping and shouting. Lots of potential to take a ton of damage if we're not able to pin down the beasties with our own large units or just armor-piercing anti-large that can actually bog them down with all of that poke-poke. Cavalry tried to get in on the rear there, but was quickly routed as they were not paying attention, and taking a rear charge is absolutely the worst. Oh, our poor Bringer of Traw's Light. What happened to you, dude? I guess I had left him in combat, and that was absolutely the end. He didn't do much. He had a very powerful buff to him, and he used it to be incredibly intimidating. But he got stepped on by Grimlock one too many times. If you survive, it will be a miracle. We gotta get Settra over. Oh, there he goes. That is the end for Bringer of Traw's Holy Light. That was very quick. Scythe to the forehead there. Giving the old Stegodon artillery piece a lobotomy. We've got to get it from launching its bolts on into our lumped up regiments of units. Well, it's hard to block a projectile that large. They do get a bit of protection from those shields that they would not be if they were pumped up around from these beasties here. Infection spells going down on that unit. You're just focus firing down at the large. We have most of the smaller units wrapped up. We have full control of the battlefield now. Several of the great monsters lay slain. Kroq-Gar and Grimlock are running for their lives. I don't think they're actually going to make it far. Settra has caught up. Can Kroq-Gar escape? He's trying to worm his way through the chariots. They are a maze of wood and metal. I don't know why he's having such a hard time. Come on, Settra, bring down Kroq-Gar. We've got more battle to watch. Like most of the beasties are fleeing for their lives, and that is the match. I just wanted to see Kroq-Gar go down. He's gonna keep shouting on his way out. One more poke in the bottom. Maybe not. Come on, Settra. You got 4 horses here. It's 3 more horsepower than Grimlock. There he goes. Down falls, a little bit late. Down falls Kroq-Gar. We understand now why he was hiding. And a swift and violent end to the much anticipated clash between Kroq-Gar and his beasts and the King of the Sand, Settra. We did end up sadly losing the Lich Priest of Light, the bringer of Traw's Holy Light himself. Unfortunately, having a mage that is built entirely around battle, even when they are made of soy, is a really bad idea for me. I did end up forgetting them, and they die in combat really quick. So we will claim our victory. They lost 555 to our 280. They weren't really fielding many in terms of actual foot soldiers. There was a lot of beasties. We managed to pack a few of them into jars, and we will go ahead and really like to do some replenishment, but I think we'll go for the Endless March for the gold. And change my mind. We'll go for binding his souls up. All it took was a single defeat to lay this champion of the Old Ones low. We did not ask for this war, but Khemri will respond with overwhelming force when attacked. Kroq-Gar's folly has shrunken his borders significantly. Let us hope we have knocked some sense into these lizards, lest we remove their permissions to exist. The fury of the desert could be contained no longer. Khemri had suffered a great dishonor at these barbarians' hands, and it would not stand. Settra's unwillingness to act would not cost them this victory. Nekaph signaled his captains, and the Legion responded as one. Let it begin. It is time then for this accursed stronghold of corruption to fall. For this battle, we have our siege towers all on one side, kind of leading the charge and going to be taking the brunt of the damage from those towers, which are maximum damage 660 missile to 20 armor-piercing missile damage. They also explode. They are a nightmare. We've got some weaker units in the back that are not in the towers, as well as our mole units in the back, which are trying to get in and harass through the back line there and capture some points as need be. There are a bunch of warriors of chaos behind these walls at demons in tow, so the more damage we can do from afar, the better. They don't have much armor to their name, the regular demons at least, and these sickly green Ungor here. The Ungor are not even a completely non-factor as far as a infantry unit. Every single one of ours are either Tomb Guard or equivalent, so we should have no problem slicing right through. Nekaph has hit the gates. He's going in solo, should be able to be dropping down a sandstorm to blow apart the unarmored units. They are magic resistant, but still a bit of chip damage on the enemy. Walls focus fire down one of our siege towers. The collapse was very quick. We didn't even get to see anything. There's normally a very cinematic looking explosion that happens, but not this time. They just kind of exploded and moved on. Those Reapers of Unearth are going to want to get to the walls quickly and at least get some cover. Otherwise, they'll be sitting ducks to be shot to pieces by those wall cannons. Since they don't have any missiles troops of their own, we can send our Kepra Swarm up over the wall and have them just kind of fire those arrows down into whoever they want with impudence. We have sent Apophis over the top as well as the Syrian's Kepra Swarm. If you are having issues with towers at all, the Kepra Swarm can surround and destroy a tower, as you'll see very soon, very quickly. So they are very good at kind of tearing down those towers, flying termite style. Also, as you will soon see, Apophis has the ability that no one else does. And that's probably because he is not technically counted as a flying unit normally, and that is making him be able to capture victory locations without landing. So if you need to get in and snag a victory plaza, you can just send Apophis. I plan on having to land him and fight off anyone that showed up, but the fact that we didn't, we're just going to leave Apophis in the sky, and cheese ensues. Got the gatehouse being chewed upon by many of our chariots. To rip those timbers down somehow. Barreling through the demons, no one's going to stop Nekaph. We've got him on a mission. His job is to come on in and slay this cultist of Khorne. If you can bring down the leader of a demon faction, same as the Tomb Prince, the Tomb Kings rather, you will give quite the leadership shock to the enemy. Another sandstorm dropping down on this clumped up group of demons. Bloodletter should take very minimal damage, but it'll at least kind of keep them off of the horsemen, although we may have completely killed our horsemen with that cast. Cultist is very tall. Nekaph the chop. He needs to swing back a couple times to give him some return swings. Chariots have engaged as well. Just in time. Those wheels ripping and tearing into the unexposed, or actually the fully exposed flank of those bloodletters. The Ungor are going to try to lend their assistance as well, but those are just axe Ungors and should not really put up much resistance to the charge of those chariots. Especially unbraced, should smash right through. The biggest threat being those warhounds are coming on over the glass cannon unit. For the most part, we have swarmed up over the walls. We're going to have to stay in slow-mo just because of the speed at which things are progressing. Absolute slaughter on the walls. Khorne's elite will fare very well against our Tomb Guard. They're very close to each other as far as stats, and Khorne's soldiers have a ton of armor. But as you can see, most of the bodies that are on the wall are not our own. Back up over with Apophis, who has nearly claimed the victory point. Ripped the tower apart and are already well across the map to go do so to this one that is coming up as well. Any towers that are being built, tear them down because the AI spends a lot of time prioritizing rebuilding the ones that you actually destroy. Chariots have free reign to run around and smash through these Khorne warriors. They won't do a ton of damage just because they don't have a lot of innate armor piercing, so that's why those Royal Chariot Guard are going to come in handy. But unexposed, or with an exposed unit that we can kind of pull away from and keep charging into, they should have no problems ripping them to pieces. Oracle Stalkers have gotten in on the other end there. I think they had gotten caught in when the AI decided to come beyond the walls. So this was not actually intended, but here they are, and they're going to make their presence felt. Slaughter the way all the way around to where they think they're supposed to be. With the routing of their lord, many of these demons are going to be breaking. As we see several of the Bloodletter units fizzling on back and heading back to Khorne's realm. The wall teeming with combat. Bloodletter being launched off the side. Oh, it's too bad he didn't actually tumble off the side. That would have been awesome. Still quite the melee scene. Against an army with almost no missile troops, it allows your flyers to be an absolute menace. They tore this tower down quickly and are moving on to kind of find someone who is a little bit more injured on the walls. The Kepra Swarm is really, really weak once they get into melee combat with anyone from Khorne's military, that is, so you want to keep them moving at the very least. Khorne's warriors being tested by a dual unit of chariots. As you can see, the damage is starting to come back on the chariots. Need to get them moving if we're able, but spoiler alert, we probably will leave the men fighting. Most of our enemy on the wall has broken. Our archers are in and are able to pretty much fire with impunity on anyone they want. Many of the mustard-colored gore lie slain. As I said previously, they were a non-entity. Food for the Tomb Swarm is really all they are. Kepra Swarm did go ahead and get into a rampage, and they are charging fully into a unit of Bloodletters and Chaos Warriors, so even a charge from the Chariots is probably not going to save them as they crumble on away. Still a rather marvelous charge. And that unit that actually made it through the gates before is finally broken on through. And they will be making their presence felt as well. Even though the battle is close to over. Twister kicks on up. Run, foolish warriors of Khorne, run! Your god cannot save you. Uppercut out of existence, run right over by that horse. Except for, man, this is a champion Bloodletter. Give him the old clothesline on the way out. We will lose a few on our pursuit of victory. Apophis is going to continue to cause problems, just kind of flying around and capturing points. Didn't really use him in melee in this one. He actually kind of struggles against demons just because most of them do have magical attacks, and him being ethereal, unless he's attacking someone from behind, he quickly takes damage in return. He deals it back quickly, but unlike Skarbrand, does not quite have as much health. He will swing on into combat, need to get some slow-mo Apophis kills. That knife twirl in mud. Death is upon you. Who knows, Apophis may be part of the Blood Gods team himself, being one that is so expert in blood. and the shedding of such. Still not a great target for him. He'd rather be fighting against a single unit. He'll have no trouble ripping them to pieces. That unit breaks as well. The demons that are remaining up on top are easily picked apart by our Kepra riders. Pincushions now. And King Nekaph secures the town. Let's get to purging this corruption. There is gook and stank everywhere. To get this place fit for a king again. Settra's will alone could not hold back the fury of the desert, and Nekaph strikes Deff Gorge, crushing the defenders and only losing 246 in the process. They were weakened by a prolonged siege, but that matters little. We'll go ahead and sack the Deff Gorge for the gold. Nekaph coming away from that on his Kimrian War Sphinx. I think we're going to take him off of said Sphinx, though, since he is a cavalry lord. He now has the Heart of Kassar, though. This still throbbing and oozing organ was said to be given as a present from the Kassar High Priest. We should probably take a look at this High Priest to see how sketchy he is. A kingly gift, it guides its owner to safety or their opponents, obfuscating the presence of even the mightiest hosts under a veil of sand. Kind of similar to the Dishonored Heart, which is also equally as horrifying. We gain some extra replenishment rate, some ambush success chance of 35% more, and then defense chance of 50%, and then Strider for Nekaph, who's now going to be on a War Sphinx. Yeah, we get one battle with him on a War Sphinx, and depending on how overwhelming that is, we'll put him back on a steed. He is the desert champion, but look how kingly this Sphinx is. Even Nekaph would ride around on it. Form of Necromancy kicks back off. We are absolutely going to go ahead and claim the Deff Gorge, though. Do not need Skarbrand to have a powerful bastion of strength. I was trying to think of what words I was looking for there. Deff Gorge was going to be one of his strongholds. We needed to eliminate it. We will keep in this ancient battle site, as King Nekaph wants to dedicate that to his patron. Go ahead and chuck in the... Probably a good idea to get some walls, honestly, since we are so deep into enemy territory. We'll worry about growth once things are a little safer. We do have a full-blown Waaagh headed our way. Wurzzag, the Great Green Prophet. He's riding in on his boar, and he has a stack of 16 of 16 in his Waaagh, which is probably going to be filled with all sorts of nasty Savage Orc biggins. Skarbrand is also amassing a force to try to take back some of his land, but luckily, since we claimed the Gorge from him, his more powerful military options should hopefully be at least limited for now. What I wanted to do with Arkhan was come on over and attack Nakara. I think I will, since Wurzzag cannot quite reach Gorgazon. It is a Savage Orc land, so he is probably going to be wanting that. Listen, rambunctious horses, look at them. All the energy. Get moving. Now see, we're going to have to fix that. For Settra. Say it with me. For Settra. He had magical attacks before? Nay. Welcome, Omaha Anubis, to being magical. Your souls have been harvested. We'll just go ahead and claim that settlement there. Securing the barrier isles for Settra. And unleashing yet another storm of necromancy. Nakar will be where we go ahead and shove in the mortuary house for the growth and replenishment right there. We'll go ahead and upgrade the Mastaba to a mausoleum over on Gorgonzon's side, so we can put in some walls. Prince Ezra, our new viewer submission, is taking the place of Eris, since I wasn't able to find a Tomb Princess mod that I really liked, so Ezra instead of Eris. It's not quite the same, since Eris was, I believe, the Greek goddess of either strife or revenge, so it worked very well with the story you had proposed. Either way, he is got the same kind of thing going on, and we're going to send him up north to try to assassinate as many of Wurzzag's followers as possible. We can eliminate some of these heroes, take the leadership of these orcs down by a pretty huge margin. Last new addition was going to be Queen Rasut, who is currently recruiting up some gigantic war kitties as well as some other kind of quick units. The ancient tomb mummies I wanted to try ahead and go ahead and use as well. I think they have Encourage. Yeah, they're very similar to, what are they from the Chaos? The Aspiring Champions. Very similar to what these guys are going to perform like. I can't wait to use them. Shabti Ancients as well for that armor sundering, and then as soon as we finish the search for Priesthood of the Bast, we'll be able to throw in all of the goodies that Bast has to offer. All the cat units. Green Rashut should have a full army soon. Menamhatum is nearing the home port of Zandri to look out to the shores. We'll probably bring down Mad Mullitson just so that no one else gets the pieces of 8. We can start wreaking havoc on the pirates out in the ocean. We can bring down the Maelstrom or bring it into our empire. That'd be great. I think we probably can't, being as it is the ocean itself, but either way, we will get out and stem the tide of piracy. For the Treacherous Wizard, we'll go ahead and throw in the skill point for the right hand of Nagash. The first and most loyal of the great Necromancer's followers will stand at his side once again, so it is written. We shall see. For now, he will stand at Settra's side. Attend your king. And use what he has learned to eliminate Nagash's followers. Or our King Nekaph. We can go ahead and start working on his wheel and foot. We upgrade the Nekaph warriors and chariots, which I don't like. Let's go for Skeleton Horsemen, Nekaph Horsemen, and Tomb Guard Horsemen. And then the Shock Distraction, so our extra missile strength for our Horse Archers. I think it gives it to, no, just the Horse Archers. Horse Archers, rather. Sounds good to me. We'll have incredibly powerful archers, and even more so, horsemen. Settra's final point shall be going into the Arcane Conduit. That way we have much more in terms of magical energies. I think I'm going to leave the priest out of his army, and we're just going to replace it with just a full suite of Royal Chariot Guard. All of our chariots are going to be replaced with Royal Chariot Guard. We'll replace the names that were with them before, or even give them new. Henizmet is going to stand as sentinel against the lizards in the south. We're going to attempt to raise our relations with them, but if they continue to rebel, we'll continue to put them down, and we will only allow a single rebellion before their empire is consigned to oblivion. So both Kroq-Gar and Tlaqua have used their one and only chance. Go ahead and kick Vil this man on out. Get your trespassing lizard self on home. Settra did not trust these large, hungry creatures. However, he also saw the merit in not having a tidal wave of stinking flesh as an enemy at the moment. The ogre's presence would be tolerated temporarily, for he would not permit raiding in his lands, and the monsters would not permit anyone telling them to stop. Arkhan was no fool. Wurzzag's horde of rowdy savages was a grave threat to Khemri. As he gave the order to douse the fires and have the legions prepare for an ambush of the Greenskins, he shook his head in disgust. Settra was not compelling him to defend the kingdom. Arkhan could have just let them pass on his vengeance on Khemri for his enslavement. Instead, he now stalks these would-be invaders to protect the realm he once hated. The god of insanity stirs. He uses the oracles in the southern wastes as his hand. And now we are the target of his ire. Each does nothing without an infinite-fold plan, and always with purpose. We must engage with the Lord of Sorcery with unwavering will, as the web of insanity can devastate entire empires with a single thread, and Tzeentch holds them all. King Amenemhat was back where he belonged. Out on the open sea, with salt in the air and the screams of slaving pirate scum on the wind. He was equal parts furious and glad that his waters were so infested with dregs. He had already slaughtered the crews of several smaller ships and had finally quartered a pirate lord leading an elite group of mariners from the Norscan wastes. These barbarians would soon feel the full wrath of the Vulture Lord, for Ualatp is always hungry. It is time to rip the monkey men of the north asunder. Let's get this battle going. We have our battle plan as follows. I have the Bronze Legion forming the armored tank corps up front. They've got their javelins to stop any large units causing any shenanigans, as well as those shields to block any return fire from those hunters in the back. It won't block a lot since those axes are going to be armor piercing and kind of smash shields apart, but they will be doing their thing. We also have our Vulture Legion and the Sea Vultures off to the side. On both sides, we've got the Vulture Legion to add their fire arrows to the fight, since especially that's where they put all of their armored skin wolves, which are going to be both armored and regenerative. We want to make sure we have, or at least weakening that regeneration as much as we can. Look at the Frostworm, such an awesome unit. Unfortunately, the Frostworm is just a sad little wannabe dragon, but he looks incredible. He has a very potent magical breath attack. All of our enemies are gold chevron, but only a few of them are actual Marauder champions. Most of them are just regular old Marauders and should be just more or less bags of meat. Easily slain and tossed aside. On top of the armored skin wolves, they also have their heavily abused mammoth with a absolutely horrifying grabby snout. What is this? What did you do to your mammoth to make them evolve into this? Not allowed is what that is. So the murder mammoth, who it looks quite sad and unfortunate to be here, will be lending his might to the battle. When you take care of them, they do a lot of damage for you, and this one just doesn't end up being one of the ones they like. Good old face tattoo himself has joined the fray. Very concerned and very angry looking fella here. Oh, hang on now. He's showing emotions. Maybe fear. And fear is the proper emotion to feel when the Vulture Legion is coming your way. Swinging on back to our side, the Blessed Legion of Waaagh. We're going to keep them just because I like the armor sundering arrows they have. It will stay in the middle, and just kind of anyone they hit is going to then immediately be way weaker and easier to bring down. Kind of fits well with the piratey theme, so we have our Corsairs rushing in to attack the weakened units. Speaking of, no one deserves a slow-motion walking sequence more than these lads. Look at the confidence. These are fellows that clean their room. Just look at them. Majestic. Then we have the... We're closing in. There's a lot of ground to cover here. And they were doing us no favors by staying as far away as possible. I decided to march the units in. No reason to tire them up. We've got several marching sequences in then. Look at their models, so incredible. Got a little bit of charred and blackened bones. There should be at least a little bit resistant to fire, I would assume. Ooh, they're not. Okay, well maybe I just have my own issues then. I figured they would be. That tends to be what denotes that in the skeletal variety, either that or just being a bit more elite. The blue cloaked Tomb Corsairs. We can take a quick look at our enemies' stats before we actually make contact. The Marauder champions are not to be trifled with nearly 100 leadership, 80 armor, and then quite deadly melee abilities. They've got pretty good staying power with all that high defense. 70 weapon strength, pretty nasty. And they have that rage capability of getting more tanky and melee intensive as long as they are fighting. As we get closer, the strategy is going to be to lure out those speedier high-value units. All of their high-value units move quicker than their infantry. We can kind of get them moving forward and draw them back into all of our myriad ways to fill them full of arrows. That will be very key. So out march the Tomb Barks. Or glide majestically, rather. Incredible job on these. I do saying it every single time. They look awesome. Well, mine seem to have a little bit funky bug where the little scarabs kind of stay in one spot and don't really move. If that's intended, so be it. Still looks awesome. I am a little sad you can't actually directly target the archers on top, but it does make sense. Frostworm is tired of their nonsense already and charges on in. Unfortunately, it doesn't realize that this is the wrong hood, and we have all of the air superiority. Carrying for days. And all of them are very hungry. Frostworm is getting ripped down on that health bar. English is hard. We'll send the Tomb Barks out and around. I was hoping they would pick soft, juicy targets and fire into the back of this Frostworm who wasn't paying attention, but this one was a bit confused and chose the Marauder champions. As the weaker carrion, we're really not doing all that much damage. I chose to pull them on away from combat, allow the bigger, chunkier carrion to swing in, and the arrows and javelins to do the same. Go ahead and jump back into slow motion as several things going on at the same time here. Our Tomb Prince, or our Priest of Shadows, is dropping down a Pit of Shades, and the Frostworm is already running for its life. Brave, it is not. One of the elite units is going to be deleted here in one go. The Realm of Souls has opened on up, and we are reaching out and plucking the souls from these champions. We'll be sticking them in the most humiliating looking Ushabti we have. Well, the enemy team here, we didn't get to see that first volley, but just sprinting full head-on into a volley of javelins makes you cringe a little bit there. That is not a sight you want to see. Just a pure waste of human life. A bit of stuttering. See, the computer doesn't even like it. Give them another volley, they deserve it. All back and loose. See them being scythed down behind there. Madam Hedam has found himself a target as well. No one shall stop him. Especially if he summons in a unit of crabs while the javelins fly overhead. Berserkers are scary, but they fear nothing but a gigantic, hungry crab. Tomb Swarm as well, coming down to rip the flesh from the Berserkers there that don't have much armor. We want to quickly move the Axemen out front to take that charge from those wolves and mammoth. Our vultures aren't going to like that too much. And they charge. Unfortunately, we were not braced, so that is going to hurt. We're going to deal some damage back. We need those archers to pull back away from the fight, which they are going to quickly do so. We'll switch into slow-mo since there's a lot going on all at the same time. The bigger of the vultures is choosing to chase off the Frostworm, make sure that unit does not come on back. Its breath attack could do serious damage to our lightly armored Tomb Corsairs. Crabs are destroying the enemy. Sand will be a pulpy mess of blood and awful. Smash. Big angry crab, smash. Vulture Legion moving off to the side. As soon as they're able to fire into an exposed flank, they are going to deal a ton of damage. All of it fire. Pit Wolves are already booking it. They have seen enough. Across the field, we're dropping the Terror Bomb into the middle of the Marauders here. Being just normal Marauders, they are not going to enjoy any amount of terror. You quickly break and rout that unit. Mammoth receiving its dosage of fire arrows. Point blank right into its... Well, it used to be a furry hide. Now it is not so furry. Like I said earlier, that is not how you treat your mammoths. That is why they lost the fight, among other reasons. Adam is dueling head-on with the Lord of the Enemy. Old Tattoo Face has decided that fighting is not for him, especially against the Vulture Lord. He remembers him from a time long ago. Pirates tend to turn and run from a Adam. They will remember to do so again. Yes, now the Northskins are turning and running for their lives. We are going to chase down as many as we can. A great sacrifice is due to Ualatp this day. Gulf of Medes has been rife with piracy for far too long. Time we purge it through bloodshed. A marvelous victory. We only ended up losing 99 of our soldiers to their 925 to a very elite unit of, or at least a very elite army of Norscan pirates. They only had a couple beasties and they were not the war mammoth variant, so we did get lucky on that front, but I think either way we would just had a little bit more casualties, a bit more of a different strategy, but a marvelous victory. We'll go ahead and grab the Binded Souls so we can keep patrolling the waters. Minimum is now on a War Sphinx as well. And with him, we are going to keep on a War Sphinx, absolutely. If you could fly on a gigantic, like a specialized carrion, that'd be cool too, but they are not, carrion are not the most strong, so you can't really make them as potent as a dragon, but Kermsin Ualatp, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Kermsin Ualatp, the Fallen of the Vulture. Too many pirates to count have fallen beneath the blade of this ancient relic. Oh, how fitting. Renowned for its ocean-connected properties, this powerful halberd in the hands of a skilled priest king can be a force multiplier like no other, channeling Ualatp's powers and those of the deep. We have extra 2 per turn for our winds and magic. All of the vampire coast are going to hate us, and then more weapon strength with fighting against the vampire coast, or armor piercing. Miscast base chance drop. Tons of good bonuses. We'll keep reading them. Regeneration while fighting at sea only, and then extra melee attack while fighting at sea. So we are going to be a ocean nightmare. Speaking of, he already is equipped up with his weapons. Let's double check. Kermsin is in his hands. Perfect. We'll go ahead and pass us some skill points then. Oh, I spoke far too soon. He has a Royal Tomb Bark, which isn't quite as deadly as the War Sphinx, but I'd really like to try this thing in combat, so when we're able, that's probably what he's going to be riding on, unless we determine it to be less potent than the War Sphinx. We'll go ahead and grab Earthing and Arcane Conduit, just finish off his magical capabilities. Then for his underlings, Wrapup III needs himself some more speed, since he's rolling with the quick-footed Tomb Corsairs. And then for Berect the Priest of Shadows, I kind of like the idea of having Occam's Mind Razor makes sense, because we would apply this to someone, one of the pirate crews, to make them a little more strong, but I think also just blasting people from orbit is very piratey. So, I'm gonna hit him. Move on to Mulletson here. Finish them off for good. Give that one to auto-resolve, and hopefully it doesn't kill too many of our soldiers. 51, and that works for me. We'll go ahead and grab the Endless March this time for a bit more campaign movement. Freaking Gulf Raiders have been destroyed. Are we still replenishing since this is friendly waters? We are. In that case, we could kind of move up and start claiming back Stalia and Talea for ourselves. Alternatively, we could use the coast to kind of attack the beastmen that have started problems with us. We can come on up here and claim Gronti Mingal, which is both a elven colony and has some salt. We may go ahead and start a colony up there. Go ahead and jump into March stance, because I'm not concerned, and we can be arrogant with the Minimum. Get going, bud. Queen Rasut has herself some cats coming on in. We will have a full army of felines momentarily. And the Black Pyramid is actually finally starting to decrease in its overall corruption, down to -9. So, before too long here, the Black Pyramid will be back to its normal sandy, still everything dead, but sandy self. Almost, I'm going to keep moving up north. As much anti-corruption as we can get into the area, the better. We'll go ahead and chuck in the engraved walls here just to keep things safe. Kosobar as well. We'll do that at Antok since it's closer to the borders. And then Quetzalcoatl, we'll go ahead and upgrade to a mausoleum, get our research rate moving on up. That is going to continue to stand sentinel. We'll go ahead and put him closer to the border though, because I don't trust the lizardmen one bit. Good news is we do have now a shared enemy with Kairos. We're going to go ahead and see if we can get an eye on Wrapup. Be careful. This land will have tentacles popping out in random spots and eyeballs watching you everywhere. I believe the Lost Palace. Fateweaver's Crevasse is where we need to be moving towards. I believe that to be his capital. It's been a little bit since the Oxyotl campaign, so correct me if I'm wrong. It's either Fateweaver's Crevasse or he is more in this direction. We'll find out. There's demons all over the Southern Wastes. No penguins there. They have been mutated into monsters. Just 2 more turns before the Royal Chariots, and before we go head in, do a bit of a time skip. We'll swing on into our dynasties. I think I'm going to continue to work on... the heralds there, but I think getting a bit more skills for our horsemen will be good for Nekaph. Melee attack and defense. Or we can get a bit more armor and missile strength for all of our archers. So more ammunition and reload time reduction, or more missile strength. Let's go for the Bone Edifice, because this gives us a lot more buffs than just the other 2 do. Bone Edifice it is. We need to build up our store of Canopic Jars a bit more there as well. These marauding savages have taken one step too far. Arkhan had been keeping a close eye on their rampaging horde. Until now, they had been content to stay in the north, and the Dark Wizard was hoping the Waaagh would move on towards wherever their goal lay. This took a turn, however, when the covetous eyes of hundreds of orcs fell upon the weakened town of Nakara, making it easy pickings for a smash and grab. Arkhan sighed to himself and gave Anubis a wave, signaling they would emerge from hiding and engage the horde before more damage could be done. At once, the warriors of Khemri strode to battle, knowing the fate of all to the south lay on their shoulders. Not one step backwards would be taken. The very definition of we bit off more than we can chew, but let's see about defeating this Waaagh. Led by none other than the Savage Orcs' own Wurzzag. He has quite a few Savage Orcs to his name, as well as some monstrous units and war machines. We will get over there and take a look in a moment. Let's get some quick marching and I guess still images of our skeletal axemen. They look awesome. They are not going to be incredible in combat. They'll do a little bit more damage than your typical skeletal warrior just because they've got an axe in either hand, but besides that, they are more or less just chaff. We are going to be using the Victor Shard as much as we can on their mages. Both Wurzzag and the Death Hag are going to cause lots of problems for us. She is all sorts of monstrous looking. Got a couple orc big bosses, lots of orc boys and savage orcs running around. Once they reach us, the nightmare that ensues. The one redeeming factor for our army is we do have the 2 different disciple units acting as flamethrowers. With their 0 armor piercing, normally that would cause a bit of issues for them. But since a majority of the savage orcs are no armor, and their magical attacks will be eating through that physical resistance like it doesn't exist, they should be very good in theory against all of those savage orcs headed our way. Orcs are streaming on through. We did drop down the Trickster Shard there, just to stop any kind of nonsense with the Spear Leech. She actually went ahead and cast anyway, and with 100% miscast, still managed to not miscast. Nice. Wish I was that lucky. Plan with Arkhan and our Death Wizard Onuris is to just keep hammering the enemy Lord, ideally Wurzzag, with Spirit Leeches of our own. You can only do 1 at once, so make sure you do not double down. Some spells you can double down. I don't believe you can double down on Spirit Leech. Arkhan was hit with the debuff that did not allow him to move, so we had to drop down skeletons to keep him protected. They're going to fight a very poorly timed Foot of Gorge comes down, exploding more of their own units than ours. And another Spear Leech going down on ours. And Death Hag has been launching Spear Leeches out. The orcs, though, not really wanting to fully commit to charging us, are going to try to just set up their normal battle formation that they would like to set up in this engagement. And we're going to continue to harry their Lord then with all sorts of spells and everything else we can. The defense skeletons are wavering quite quickly there. And The orc bosses are going to try to play intercept and stop our wizard from causing any trouble on Wurzzag. It's going to be actually very effective. We want to get out of there as quickly as we can. And even with our speed increase over the enemy, his charge bonus is going to allow him to catch up. They have 70 speed to our 76, so just with that charge bonus alone, they're able to close that gap. Punish that, we went ahead and brought our Necropolis Knights forward to try to slay as quickly as we could this exposed, heavily armored large unit. Cobras get on in there and draw some blood quickly. Spirit Leech going down on Wurzzag as some missiles crash into Anubis. He needs to leave as fast as he can. Our Lord is under attack, but so is this poor orc big boss. He is getting smacked. And we don't even necessarily need to kill, just route. And since we're so close to the edge of the map, he may, if we get the proper routing for him, turn and run right off the side. Another Spirit Leech should see him off for now. We get a Spirit Leech in return, but on the Necropolis Knights instead of one of Nuris or on Arkhan there, which is very nice for us. The secondary unit of Necropolis Knights out there a little bit slow, so we don't really want them fighting a larger unit of the enemy. Another Tomb Swarm dropping down, our secondary one. I expected more of the enemy to charge through there in a gigantic blob here, and if we had any other mage, we could do an insane amount of damage. But alas. Plan is going to be to keep drawing their speedy units forward and hitting them with heavily armor-piercing and Necropolis Knights. And eventually they should be able to drag down anything they keep slamming into. We don't want them to get in contact by the giant, though. He will do insane damage with all the buffs they keep giving him. A single swing there, most likely nearly killing the Necropolis Knight in a single hit. We need them to be slithering away quickly. The rest of our army is sitting all the way back. They have so many more numbers than us that I would entirely prefer them to run all the way across the field and waste as much of their vigor as we can. And then our javelins can harry them on the way in, and we can flip with the axes and spears. The Bronze Legion and Necrolith Colossus going to be holding down the middle and hunting down any of their large hero units. And then obviously the Casket of Souls blasting apart anyone that gets close. Should be a nasty fight once they actually close the gap, which they are quickly doing. We've now got the pump wagons with the flappos out ahead of the enemy, blowing up our own Necropolis Knights with the Casket of Souls, as we do. On charging straight into the Black Orc Big Boss and realizing that he is not as adept on a chariot as Settra is, and running away. Still a lot of ground to cover, but we do need to make sure we set up in a way that we can make full use of our limited numbers and maximum amount of missiles. All of our missiles are armor-piercing. Or not armor-piercing, they are anti-large, rather. We want to use them as such. Orcs are pouring on in. We may go ahead and speed things up as they get a bit closer. Just trying to lure the cavalry in and get them hit with either the poison or the fire. Either one doesn't matter to me. We're going to let them lead this charge up, and they choose poison. Or they may be trying to waste some of our shots. They're going to go back and forth, wiggle style. Either way, we're going to force them to choose a side by sending the Necropolis Knights after them, and they're going to go headlong into the poison blasts. I'm sure that feels marvelous. Floating hip bone there. Flappos are engaged by our Necropolis Knights, a fight they absolutely don't want. Even as weak as they are, the Necropolis Knights will easily defeat them. Orc Boy is crushed in a sandwich as the Black Orc Big Boss joins the fight. Go ahead and get rid of the UI overlay for now. The moment we have streams of orcs coming on in, Foot of Gorge coming down in a completely ineffective way. They did crush one of our models, but could have gone way worse for us if they used it in one of our javelin troops. Speaking of javelins, very accurate throw by the entire regiment there. Magic missile screaming past the camera. We don't want to leave the Necropolis Knights in to fight too long. They are our main damage dealer unit. First Jet of Flame absolutely annihilating the orcs as they move on in. Decided to send both of the flamethrower units off to the same side, since all of the units are mostly over here on the one angle here. Our artillery is focusing down on those Savage Orc Biggins that have the extra, I believe, what kind of flask is this? This is going to tell us. No, it's an ability we don't need to hear about. Don't you worry about that, it's not for you. Fair enough. The Giant has engaged, and he is being targeted by absolutely every single missile we have, as well as our Colossus. Fight of the Giants is now. He keeps using the Stomp instead of his gigantic blade that would actually probably cleave this Giant in half with a single hit. Race, lads. Here come the Boar Boys. Or throw your javelins now, that works too. Ooh, several javelins to the brain on that orc there. War Paint, though, doing what it's meant to and blocking, making their skin a little extra hard. The Giant still keeping his back turned to his enemy. Stellar grade A tactics, keep that up. Got the Fish Hag back here in the back causing all sorts of problems. What is your name? The Horrible Stump Crusher. That's the best name. Pull it back into cinematic view and get watching. Wurzzag is absolutely being filled with javelins. That's what he wanted for Christmas. It has being delivered quickly. And his health bar is plummeting so fast he wonders what day it is. One more javelin should be all it takes. And down falls the Great Green Prophet. Where? It's like, oh no, you gits, why didn't you jump in the way? Sometimes it be like that, bud. You got some Orc Boy Chariots moving on in. Realizing how short they are and how... Just imagine that thing turning and looking at you. Nope. We'll jump right out of the cart and run. Arkhan floating around because he can. Using his superiority to his advantage. Keep the combat back on up. Trolls versus Spearmen. They're backed up by Savage Orcs, so the Spearmen are going to get kicked into oblivion if they don't have some resistance soon. And in march the Skeletal Axemen. A flood of axes. Who act as a... more or less a whirlwind of just death. They're not going to do a ton of damage because those Savage Orcs have that physical resistance, but anything helps. Keep them back. Some of you may die. Plenty of Orc Terrors are now flying our way, but we have routed their flanking force and are now being able to engage those archers in earnest. You better run. There's no escape. The Gobos are going to prove no threat. Run them right over. Don't even gonna have to charge into them. Get straight into those Orc boys in the back. Unit got absolutely eviscerated, and that wasn't even an attack order. They just ran them over. Not even worth their time. Spear Leech going down on this Orc big boss. Needed him to fall to drop the leadership on everyone around him as quick as we could. With the death of Wurzzag, all we really had to do was finish off a couple of their heroes, and that would break a majority of the army. Arkhan finding himself a juicy flank and fitting into it, as he does. That giant learns what happens when you fight a man with a blade. Blade greater than tree. For all those wondering. Necropolis Knights, well, are heavily outnumbered. We need them pulling on back. Good news is the AI keeps their archers always on guard mode, or skirmish mode rather, unless they have extreme number advantage, so they should be just running away instead of actually defending themselves. Otherwise, our Necropolis Knights would probably be in for some trouble. White flag is going up across the board. We have definitely lost some units, though. Rock lavas are still lobbing their rocks. We are going to send a unit of Necropolis Knights back there to stop that as soon as we can. Just an epic scene there. Makes me wish my computer was a little bit better because we could see in more detail all of the action going on in the back. Absolute carnage. Arkhan delivering slaughter. This time in Settra's name. Don't let him fool you. He is not on Nagash's side anymore. He's fought enough battles with us. That's all it takes to become buddies. Ask anyone. Those Necropolis Knights have had enough of those rock lobbers, and as weak as they are, they're still going to charge on in and slaughter those orcs. White flag is going up across the board, and the hate eyes have been locked. A traitor battle has been declared. No, there's no running from a traitor battle. Necropolis always getting in there. Don't run. That's not fun, Stump Chumpa. Get back here. He just wants to play tag with that gigantic blade. Bronze Legion is incredibly accurate with those javelins. Throwing him in there and completely threading the needle, missing all of the friendlies and killing only savage orcs. Crunch and rip flesh. The route goes out across the board, and Wurzzag's Waaagh is no more. We're going to hunt down as many of these fools as we can, and then we will probably have one more battle to rout and kill the remaining survivors. You want to leave. And another great victory under Arkhan's belt. The Waaagh of Wurzzag was stopped in his tracks. He may have other lords nearby, but for now Arkhan can rest and recuperate. We may end up having to do another battle real quick against this army. We shall soon find out. For the cost of bringing down this Waaagh, we lost our Necropolis Knights, and the Disciples of Tra are going to have to go back and heal up. They have been wounded, and as well as we lost one of our Javelin Spears. We could have probably used our Chaff a little bit more as Chaff to keep our heavy hitters a bit more healthy, but the victory falls to us. We will go ahead and bind their souls. Allow hunting Vicious Gutstabba to be a bit easier. We gained the Great Green Killer, giving Arkhan the Black a physical resistance of plus 10%, which is quite nice. I'll take any extra health we can. We will just charge right on in after Vicious Gutstabba and see if we can bring him down. Arkhan, excuse me. When you misclick, nothing good happens. For Arkhan's skill points, we will quickly move on in and add Lich King, giving us the spell Raise Dead for a summon of zombies, as well as 2 extra capacity for our Lich Priest and 3 to their recruit rank, action-wide. I don't believe anyone else in the army, including Omaha and Anubis. Oh, never mind. I was wrong. Alright, Omaha, let's go ahead and give you the... Man, Incantation of Preservation would be quite nice. But I think we give you a bit more to your replenishment stat. Then we can start working on his actual abilities. He is a support mage for the moment. We want to act as such. 2,000 in the bank at the moment. I'm happy to go ahead and shove in some walls at Gorge, keep it safer, and Nekara can move on into a Tier 2 settlement. With Wurzzag's rampage quelled, Arkhan left the broken warband to perish in the sands. They had spent long enough recovering and salvaging canopic jars for the mortuary cult, and the time was right to strike at a relatively undefended Khornate settlement. Arkhan's legions swept over the meager force of savages with little trouble, slaughtering all that bore the accursed mark of the Blood God. The disciples were then soon set to purging the corruption of the town, while more warriors could be summoned. The remnants of Wurzzag's war party had not learnt from their first encounter with the populace of Nekara. Their presence would not be tolerated, and after foolishly leading a charge on the militia of Gorge, their souls now belong to Joff. None who trespass here shall live to escape the lands they wish to plunder. The newest death machines to roll out of the armories had finally arrived. Settra's royal chariot guard were as magnificent as he requested, and would further strengthen his already unstoppable might. The captain of the guard did not come empty-handed, delivering word that King Amenemhotep had located the source of chaotic corruption and roving beasts that had been steadily trickling down from the north. An abhorrent monument to the dark gods had been erected in the ruins of an elven colony known as Raunchy Mingle, and his corsairs would waste no time bringing it down and slaughtering any followers of chaos they could find. This blasphemous herdstone has tainted our lands for long enough. Let's get to rooting out this evil. So this map, if we move around too much, it's got so many moving parts and just kind of like squidgy bits, like all of this stuff. As you get closer, kind of pulsates and sends out different particles. Makes the computer a little bit angry. We've got the same kind of setup as we used before. It worked out very well against the previous enemies. And so we're going to attempt the same kind of strategy against a little bit more of a mobile Beastmen force. This is by no means going to be a difficult battle, but we're going to enjoy it all the same. A lot of followers are charging on in. The Carrion are really only going to be useful for picking apart the different Gore herd, just because the Bestigor and when I say Gore, the Ungore herd, or anyone that's trying to run away. The Bestigor and Gore are just a little bit too potent in combat for our Carrion to be really dealing with. We have an absolute ton of ground to cover here. So let's go on over and take a look at what our enemies are feeling as they are ripped to shreds by some friendly bugs. Got our Bestigors and Cintagors with their throwing axes. Bestigors are absolutely awesome. Heavy armor and incredibly muscled beastie boys. The normal Gore there. Like I was saying, these guys are not by no means a chaff unit. More hateful mutated boys, and then the slightly more failed variety. They have made their moms very unproud. Disappointments, each and every one of the Ungore. More Bestigor with their great weapons. These may be the only Bestigor they have. The little ones over there could have been... Oh no, I was right. Bestigor herds, Gore herds. We are getting close enough to do the battle. We can stop saying Gore. Get on in there, buddy. Imrian War Sphinx looking absolutely majestic. I think Nekaph would use a War Sphinx. And by Nekaph, I mean me. I like the War Sphinx. Some water blasting on through the enemy. And the Centaur is rushing on in. They heard that death was this way. They wanted a free ticket. Horrifying version of centaurs moving through the woods there. I don't think they are going to make it home safely. I am simply bringing them back on the War Sphinx to allow the Bronze Legion to throw the javelins over the top, and then he will be turning around and immediately engaging. Javelins into the chests and legs. Those guys should fall pretty quickly. Our Tombbarks also completely unopposed in this battle besides the Bestigor or the Centaur there with throwing axes. which are going to be letting themselves be known, rocking the boat a bit. Gotta learn somehow, and by taking a bit of dings tends to be the best way. Settra have already routed. And Metapeta is going to be charging directly in to try to bog the troops down while a gnarly Pit of Shades goes in. Spells all over the place. We are pulping up the enemy. Vangeist Revenge going down as well. Give him a broadside. Cannonballs ahoy. We're absolutely going to purge this forest somehow. The damage dealt was not as much as could have been, but it completely obliterated the Ungor Spear Herd in the back there. Combined use of all those spells going to be doing a ton of damage to their overall leadership. Bronze Legion ready to receive the charge. They are completely unfazed. Arrows going in. We've got some summon of heat crabs as well. They be hungry. There is plenty of beef here in the middle. Swipe of the claw. Tearing that Bestigor in half. Looks like most of the beasts have turned tail to run. We didn't expect much from these unwashed heathens. They put up even less of a fight than I expected. Let's round them up, execute them, and let's get this Herdstone purged. And with the conquering of that Herdstone, it opens up the ruins of the area to be resettled and brought unlife back to the southern Badlands. The Marshes of Madness continue to fall under our control as well. Arkhan the Black and King Nekaph should have enough combined might to bring down Skarbrand and his coughing friend here. And if not, Settra will be most displeased. On Settra's front, though, we do have the Royal Chariot Guard adding their armor-piercing and anti-infantry might to the army. We will be using them as soon as time allows on High Queen Khalida. We would prefer to be bringing her into the Empire via Confederation, but since that is still not an option, trial through combat shall be how we bring Settra's lady into the fold. As far as in the south, Sigismund is going to continue to stand as a complete stone stop block to anyone who may try to get in. We are at war rather with both the High Elves as well as the demons, and I'm sure the lizards will not be far behind, so Sigismund will have plenty to be slaughtering. In fact, the demons have somehow gone up and claimed Ualatp. He probably used his changing of the ways to do some shenanigans. That will be a nightmare to deal with. We want to kill him as fast as we can. In fact, Prince Wrapup II is down into the Chaos Wastes to get exploring and kind of figure out where Kairos is. He hopefully will be still dueling with... Well, he is expanded out a little ways here. That blue one is one of Kairos's. So hopefully Oxyotl is still in the fight and has not been taken out. But the AI does not handle his teleportation and doing the missions very well, so they often stack up those negative debuffs, and it tends to hurt them. Queen Rasut is going to continue to recruit up her army. As soon as the War Sphinx is in, she is going to be unleashed upon our foes as well. I think we are going to send her to the north over here to help out with Nekaph. Or we could keep her around in defense. Either way, we do know that Orion's camp is actually building up with Chaos Corruption now, so we may want to send someone down to colonize it, even with all of those debuffs. Just because we don't want any random demon princes popping up in Orion's camp and starting a war in the middle of Khemri. Either way, that is going to be all the time I have for today. It is time for Settra to take back to his advisor chamber. Hope you all enjoyed part 11 of our Settra campaign. Any advice, tactics, unit names, or otherwise, take to the comments and let's start a discussion. I am out of time for today. I have been Space Wizard at War. Remember to leave a like for the like god and a sub for the sub throne, and I will see you all in the next one.